Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
You know, this is a rather impromptu sort of video, maybe a little John Levy-ish inspired, where he just kind of goes and looks at photos all the time and just rambles and shares, but yet there's a lot of stuff that comes through when he's doing that. And I just wanted to kind of cover some things again, reiterate some things in line with the train of thought that we've been putting out there, especially the last few days. Like if you saw the video yesterday that showed that subliminal programming was on the sign-off of different television programming that we used to have way back in the, going all the way back into when TV first came out. There was only a couple channels, and then they would sign off at a certain time, and they'd play the Star-Spangled Banner, and at the same time, it's saying things in the background, flashing in, is just like the movie They Live. Yeah, obey God. God is watching.
God is government.
Yeah. Trust the U.S. government. The subliminals are real, and the subliminals were hitting people, back then. This is the reality of what we have. And I used this, I remember, for a video, probably back in 2018 or so. Reptilian aliens helped the Nazis build space program in Antarctica. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There is so much more going on that as time goes on, it gets declassified, literally. Literal declassified documents that a lot of people will, if you say something to them, like, Hitler, well, he actually fled to Argentina, and, he lived out his life, and sure, people will there'll be those that just don't believe you, even though the FBI declassified documents bear that out, and bear out the fact that, there's been one cover-up after another going on. All these tabs up, a lot of them are MK Ultra and other derivative programs that we're going to discuss in upcoming videos. Truth is way more weird and shocking in so many ways than even, the fictional stories that we watch. And we see so much of the fiction is really based on the truth time and time again.
We live in a world that's been so sheltered in the sense that the controllers want us to only believe these things, and when it comes to science, it can only be noted if it comes out of these few boxes here. Otherwise, it's just ludicrous and it's impossible. But the truth is way stranger than fiction, and I think science is set up in such a way so that when the truth is heard, it is even way more no. Your senses are saying, that's not what I learned. Your ego is saying, that's not what my teacher taught me. That's not what my parents taught me. So when you do hear the truth, you're that much more to be, you're just not going to hear it even that much more. So it did seem like yesterday we did hit a bit of a nerve when we pointed out how manipulative this system is, and there did seem to be some trolls crawl out of their closets, and they didn't like that. They didn't like that, but they are hired. People do this, and there's also bots that do it, and we had plenty yesterday. For some reason, I guess people, and AI is okay when the controllers are manipulating, but they're not okay if we point it out. That was a big no-no on our part. But this is why we do it, because we want people to be free. We want them to be free thinking. And how can you be free thinking if you're being manipulated and you don't even know it? So that's what we do. Some people don't like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this, and sometimes I feel like, I wonder if I did a good job or a bad job in the titles. But the reality is, again, they suppress what they want to suppress. I do believe that the numbers that they show on YT are completely arbitrary. I think it's an AI algorithm that says, no matter how many people view it. We're going to put down that so many people viewed it. This hit me so long ago. It's like they could do whatever they want. How could we question whatever they do as far as a YouTuber, with the views? It really is. Are you pushing the paradigm or not? And, again, if you're not pushing the paradigm, and I've seen this on so many channels, they'll go from, huge views down to nothing. And it's not about the money for us. Again, it really isn't. We could do so much more in making money doing other things than doing this. This is about trying to awaken the collective before it falls off a cliff. Because that cliff is there, and the sheeple are being guided right off the edge. And the sheeple did go off the edge, a handful of years back, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and they're doing it again, and yet all the evidence is right there. If the eyes are open and the mind is open, that's the more important thing. All the evidence is right there. Obviously, there's been a lot of things cited on Antarctica by different people scanning Google Earth. Now, yes, Google Earth is ultimately not really so accurate because, as we're talking about in today's video on evolutionary, which was a Patreon exclusive that we did last week, and we just felt like we really wanted to share that. There's a lot of important information, so we wanted to give it to the Patreons first and then share the information over everywhere else, because again, the Patreons are what enables us to keep doing this and donating so much time to this endeavor, which again is from dusk to dawn. You can see it's clear that the programs that this guy was working on was a continuation of the programs that these guys were working on. Yes, these guys are real, and more it's being uncovered. They can't hide it anymore. There's been too much that's come out about this, and yet there is so much disinformation. And I have to, say it's not from jealousy, because we could have been there if we chose to become part of the system and got millions of views. No, we would never compromise ourselves for temporal pleasures or trinkets, because ultimately you take with you from this world your experiences, and what you do in this world really matters, and how you act. And so when you are serving the system, which is so oppressive, it creates a lot of negative karma, and it literally does taint the soul. And at the same time, those that will stand up and really speak out, trying to help others, you can also evolve the soul in a positive direction at the same time. As New Schwabenland, you see these photos down, and how cold is it really when they're standing out there without big parkas on, again in Antarctica, claiming it for Nazi Germany. How cold is it really? And interesting too, right here, Galactic Federation councils. You can see it's coming out. The fact that we're not alone. There's many ETs. There's many other species that live on Earth with us right now. And we're just not allowed to go into certain zones on Earth. Oh, there's so much coming out. And we covered a lot about his experiments. Look at the giant. There's a giant there. Yeah, sure. He's maybe 8 foot tall or thereabouts, in his uniform. Yeah, the thought that they were trying to craft a master race. In reality, I would say, the reality is exactly the opposite. They were looking to craft a masterful puppet race that would be more easily controlled, because that has been the ongoing project on planet Earth. How can the control system control human consciousness expanding when we get out of a Kali Yuga? This is what everything's about. How do we keep humans trapped when their, get out of jail card time has come, and we're no longer in the Kali Yuga as we speak right now? And so the light, which again, light is information, is also triggering our genetic changes as our second chromosome has been fused. We have all this junk DNA that they call junk DNA. It's just DNA that has been turned off by the programmers of this system. And it should be pretty damn obvious when there's certain cures out there that are all about manipulating DNA again. It's all one program. This is just one program. One program. These wars are very real in that they claim human lives, and yet there's one system in control. One system. Not multiples. There's not really, battles going on between the controllers to the extent that they would like us to think. Yes, they do all have egos, and they all want to be the top controller. When you look at this too, you look at everything that we see. Whoa, that's a big guy, isn't he? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Again, the giant card keeps coming up. Well, there's many different races of beings that have come to this planet from other planets. Yes, we're not the only planet. You're not going to fall over the edge. You're not. It's again. It should be so obvious that the most published book of all time is the Bible by a mile. Obviously, that's got to be the Control Systems Manual #1. And then your second and third most published books are the works of Mao and the Quran. Those three books I wouldn't trust, because again, you're living in Satan's system. So obviously Satan's going to make sure the books that they want to have out there are the most published. And yet you have to look at everything in the reverse sense. So at the same time, it's come to light that, well, perhaps he wasn't Hitler. Perhaps he was literally a red shield. Yeah, and then there's information in there that says, if you look deeper, that no, that was a British spy paradigm that they were trying to put in there to again confuse things. They are always trying to cover their tracks. As soon as something gets out there, they cover their tracks. Would they sacrifice their own? Oh yeah, absolutely. But less likely to sacrifice their own than sacrifice us. They do that all day long. There's movies out there that will show you how it was when the kings and queens of Europe, which were all interrelated with each other, would have their wars, and then if one of them happened to be captured or in a position where they could be taken out, often they wouldn't be. They would be simply captured and ransomed, so they get money back, and then they release them, and then they'll go and gather an army and do the whole thing again in another 5 to 10 years. This is how the paradigm works. It's always been a military-industrial complex, because it also creates the loosh that feeds certain entities.
So what if there was a way to break out of this paradigm and do something and finally discover the truth? The truth. What is your truth? What are you here to do? I mean, it would be so much nicer to live your life based on how you chose to live it instead of the hijacked method that they're using now. But there are ways we can break out of this system. It's just not easy because you're going against mind control. Pretty serious mind control too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Think about it too when they draft you and do conscription, which is what they have planned in the upcoming year, I would say. I think 2025 will see mandatory conscription from NATO nations and probably BRICS as well. they're forcing you to taint your soul. They're forcing you to do acts that, it's just government sanctioned, MURDER, but it is. That's what it is. You don't know the person personally on the other side. And, they might be somebody that might end up being your best friend. Again, it's just them getting you, forcing you at gunpoint to point that gun at somebody else. It is totally psychopathic. Everything about this world is psychopathic. And when we see that the leadership of the world, it really comes from the same sources. And again, these are vehicles, these are vessels that can be utilized by very, very dark energies because they have that genetic propensity. Again, it's the Martian invasion that, no, they're not little green men. They look just like us because they are us in so many ways. They're again, we are totally, every single one of us are mongrels. And I use the dog analogy again. You have humans that are barely over 3 feet tall. You have humans that have been 8 and 9 feet tall. And you have dogs that can get down into a rat hole to go, ratters, to go chase out vermin. And then you have dogs that are so gigantic, they're like little ponies. Dogs have been genetically mutated and modified by humans to do certain purposes. Humans have been genetically modified by others for other purposes.
Mm-hmm. And it goes on, and it's really difficult to go against your instincts, but there is a way to go with your instincts and still be free and still live your life. One of Sita's favorite things is to be a protector. She is living her best life when she feels like she's protecting her yard and she's doing her guard dogging and running the fence up and down and running the property line. She is so happy. But you know what? She's still free. She's still free. She can do it if she wants to, or she doesn't have to if she's tired, and she's living a good life. So there's ways to take our instincts and use them for good to make us happy without having to serve controllers.
Do you remember the movie Face Off? I think it was Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, I want to say. And it literally was about taking somebody's face and recreating it on another person so they could assume their identity. You look at these, the first one is a picture of Hitler from 1944. And the following 5 were made by Eddie Sens, a New York makeup artist for the OSS. Again, OSS, it's one of the secret services that predates our current ones on June 6, 1944. So would you really have recognized them? And then now, of course, we have multiple Bidens, we have multiple Hillarys, we have multiple anybody of any sort of purpose. People are starting to notice that there's multiple 45s now. Oh yeah, so it would be very, very easy to hide him in the bunch just by changing things. You just change a few things and you would never even notice that it's the same individual. So again, declassified documents show that he arrived by submarine into Argentina and then made his way throughout Latin America, perhaps even came to the United States and lived a long life. He was seen in the 60s, so he was seen 20 years plus afterwards. Now, Cindy can see his energy, and it has never really transitioned in the normal sense. So in other words, Hitler has never died normally the way most people die on planet Earth and relinquish the bodies.
No, I mean, it's like almost maybe he's in stasis or something, but there's like where he's at, it's a flat land.
They use some sort of technology.
I think so, because it's not the normal energy. When I look at his energy body, it's just there. It's in existence. It's not in a happy place. It's not in a sad place. It's not any place. It's like he's just existing. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, so the purpose of this video is, again, that our history is totally full of lies and obvious lies. Again, we get these declassified documents that come out, and they are available to us. Most people don't even look at them. I mean, it's probably 1 out of 100 people, probably way less than that, that's ever even looked at maybe any declassified document. And of course, they're heavily redacted. You know, it's right in front of our faces. You know, saying again, you know, yes, no, that was total disinformation. He didn't commit suicide. His bodies and Eva Braun's were not burned. In fact, you know, DNA tests later confirmed that those weren't them. You know, so it's just an illusion. And when we look to, say, that guy, that Jeffrey E. guy that we've seen with 45, we've seen him with everybody, you know, Gil Bates, etc., etc., and they say he's no longer with us. The reality is, you know, he's probably somewhere either in, you know, beautiful island somewhere in Greece, the Caribbean, Southeast Pacific, you know, or even in lands, you know, maybe that are not on any official map. This is all part of that reality. It's all been a lie and an illusion. And was he trying to create a super race? No, the program really is just the opposite. It's all about creating the most docile species that you could possibly make of a humanoid worker bee on the planet that would still have emotions to feed the negative entities.
Well, they need layers. They need layers of control. So having a being that is going to listen, yet be strong enough and smart enough to take its own initiative without breaking ranks, I think is what they were after. It wasn't some super being that could do fantastic things. No, it is about how much they can control this being, and obviously they've come up with some programs to control people in ways that are really quite disturbing.
Yeah, one of the counter narratives, and you'll get people that think that he was actually a white hat, and they'll say, well, you know, he actually opposed the banking system and even went against his own perhaps blood in opposing the Red Shield banking system. Again, this is all done just to control the narrative and to put in enough, you know, rabbit holes that lead around in a circle that are going to get you going nowhere. It's all purposeful information that it's all about disinformation. Now, even if they did, if he did go ahead and do this, they understand the bigger purpose. They understand this war is slated to last 4 to 6 years, etc., etc. What's the real purposes behind this? You know, again, there's all different purposes that are behind this. There's multiple things they're trying to achieve with each of these, you know, bigger objectives that are ongoing. And they have to recognize that people are going to catch on to this, they're going to catch on to that. So what will they do? They'll create these counter narratives to get some people to think that, you know, a black hat is a white hat, and ultimately they're all black hats.
They are. They are feeding the same master. It's just they get benefits for feeding a certain master, so their lives are quite easy.
Yes, absolutely. And they could give all new identities too, as, you know, Hitler himself took on a new identity. So many others have taken on completely new identities. And, you know, this is something that many people are very, very aware of. And many people out there may not even know their real name. It is just the reality of what's going on.
Well, they do that. You know, they take people and they rearrange their whole lives and their families, and it's a mess. It's a mess out there.
It is. It's part of the bigger picture. So, you know, again, you have to look deeper. Always look deeper. And yet, you know, when you look at some photos, you don't know if really, you know, are we looking at a Homo sapien, or actually are we looking at somebody that might not even be from here at all? Could actually be, you know, part of the real control structure, because again, humans are created from multiple races of beings from more than one star system, and the humanoid vehicle is really a very, very common one throughout the galaxy.
I think when people figure that out and people understand like how many different races we really are made from and how unique they are, but unique they are not, because everyone is so very different, things at that point they will change. But there has to be some heavy hitting truth flowing through, some admissions from mainstream and big ones too, and it's going to really have to hit people's hearts, because we're so we've been lied to so much. I mean, it's just normal to be sinister. It's normal to question everything, and I think that's part of the plan too, is tell people one thing long enough, and no matter what evidence is placed in front of them, at some point it won't matter. You can place the most valid evidence in front of them, and it just won't matter. So it's going to have to be something that touches the human heart for people to wake up. And once that happens, then things can change in a big way.
Absolutely. All this is about human consciousness expanding and awakening beyond their control. Which is an inevitability as long as you stay organic and strive to stay as organic as possible in a very inorganic world. Hence, this is why, again, we recommend everybody has their own health considerations, but one of the most basic things you could do is fasting and intermittent fasting, as well as eat whole foods, one ingredient as much as possible. Combine those ingredients yourself without the opportunity for the system to throw in additives, dyes, preservatives, all these other things that fall into our food system when they're being put together and packaged so neatly and very easy to utilize and eat. Packages, yet at the same time, so much of what we have is so toxic, and so many people are getting more and more sensitive, especially those that are pretty much eating as clean as possible. You'll find that even just a little bit of poison in your system, and that is really what it is toxic poison. You'll notice it, and you won't be able to tolerate it anymore, because you're heading to a higher frequency, and our bodies are changing. Our bodies are heading into new territory if you allow them the time, and so often they just simply need the time to purge and to remove the toxins. Again, oxygen is key too. Another reason why everything was so much bigger in other ages was the fact that there was more oxygen on the planet. Every aspect of this planet can be manipulated by the control system. The technology is that far advanced.
It is, and it's hard. It's really hard to sit with that sometimes, and it is definitely a jagged pill to swallow. But for me, as far as freedom is concerned, it's that understanding that, that to me, it's so important that you question your own beliefs, because where did you get those beliefs? So you're questioning one belief after the next, which is really hard, because then you have to unravel certain things. But to me, freedom is about questioning, what I have believed, what I do believe, what's in that box, what's not in that box. And to me, that way I'm free. I'm not beholden to any one person's belief system, like in the Bible. In the Bible, things are very rigid, things are closed in. Spirituality is very expansive, it's free.
Yes, and humans are intended to be free, and they will be free, those that don't give away their freedom, which is done every single day, intentionally or unintentionally. So I hope you guys got something from this. We look forward to your comments. As always, thank you for your support. You could join us over on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, even less when you pay for a year in advance. It comes to about 90 cents a month. unique videos, and it does support us dedicating really the entirety of our lives to this. Much love, source bless, and namaste.
Namaste.